Some places don't want to be found, and some memories don't want to stay buried. This is the story of a quiet lake, a missing house, and the strange, sinking feeling that you've been here before. You won't hear screams, only water dripping, and something moving slowly beneath the surface. I arrived just before dusk. The road ended at the lake, like it had nowhere else to go. Beyond the trees, the surface lay smooth as black glass. Not a ripple, not a breeze, just stillness, too perfect to be natural. The air smelled like wet leaves and something older. Not rot, exactly. Just the kind of damp that clings to forgotten things. There used to be a house here. That's what the letter said. Come home, it's still there, beneath the lake. No name, no sender, only a wax seal pressed with a symbol I didn't recognize. A circle within a square, and a line running down the middle like a split eye. I shouldn't have come. But when you get a letter like that, and something inside you remembers without knowing why, you follow it. There was no pier, no path. Just soft mud and reeds that whispered secrets in a language the wind understood. I stood at the edge for a long time, watching, waiting, and then I saw it, just for a moment, as the last light slipped behind the trees. A roof just beneath the surface, tiles covered in algae, windows like shut eyes, and a chimney that exhaled nothing. It was gone the next moment, but I had seen it. I set up camp a few feet from shore, didn't bother with a tent. I wasn't planning to stay long, but the longer I stared at the lake, the more I felt it watching me back. Not in malice, but in recognition, like an old friend you forgot you betrayed. I couldn't sleep. The night was full of small, wet sounds, drips, lapping, tiny splashes, and then, sometime past midnight, footsteps, not loud, not fast, just squelching, deliberate steps, coming up from the waterline ... I didn't move, I didn't breathe. They passed by me and kept walking, but I saw no one. When I finally dared to look, there were no prints, only the reeds swaying slightly too long after the air had gone still. And then, on the edge of my blanket, a wet key, old, iron. Cold as bone, I picked it up. It didn't belong to any door I knew, but something deep in the lake wanted me to remember it. At dawn, the lake was even quieter than before. No birds, no insects, just fog, pale and thick, curling above the surface like breath from something sleeping underneath. I held the key in my hand. It had dried overnight, but still left a cold stain on my palm, like it remembered being drowned. I thought about leaving, packing up, heading back down the road I came, but the car wouldn't start. It sat in silence, as though the engine had exhaled its last sigh in the night. Even the radio was dead, and I hadn't turned the lights on. They were on when I returned to it, glowing faintly through the fog, as if something had been inside, waiting. There was movement on the lake, a slow ripple like a hand brushing across the surface. I turned toward it, and that's when I saw her. She was standing upright, on the water ... Not floating, not swimming, standing, as though the lake were solid glass beneath her feet. She wore a dark dress, soaked and trailing like moss around her ankles, hair long, black, and dripping across her shoulders like riverweed. Her face was turned away, but something about the shape of her, it felt familiar, like someone I'd once loved and forgotten, or maybe never met. She began to walk. Each step sent a ripple that reached all the way to shore. ... I couldn't move, not out of fear, out of stillness, like the whole forest was holding its breath. She stopped halfway across, and then, without turning, she raised one arm and pointed to the trees behind me, to something I hadn't noticed before, a narrow path cut cleanly through the woods, dark but waiting. When I looked back to the water, she was gone. I took the path. Of course I did. What else do you do when a stranger in a dream points you home? The trees closed around me like memories. The deeper I went, the less the air moved. Leaves didn't rustle, branches didn't creak, only the sound of my feet, soft on moss, snapping the occasional hidden twig, and the distant, dripping sound that never seemed to get closer or farther away. It wasn't long before I saw the stones, half buried in the earth like old teeth. Steps. They led downward, into the earth, and as I followed them, I began to feel the cold return, not on my skin, but inside me, as if something inside was remembering water. At the bottom of the stairs was a door, old, swollen with damp, paint peeled back to expose a strange symbol, the same one from the letter, a circle, a square, a line, a watching eye, and just above the handle, a keyhole. I took the iron key from my pocket. It slid in like it had been waiting, and with a slow, grinding click, the door opened inward. What lay beyond wasn't a room, it was a hallway, and from the ceiling, water dripped upward. The hallway was long, longer than it should have been, with no windows, no lights, only the soft, rhythmic sound of water, dripping upward. I walked slowly. Each footstep on the damp floor echoed like it wasn't alone, like something else moved slightly after I did, just out of sync. The walls were wooden, rotted in places, but held together by thick beams. Old nails stuck out like metal thorns. Here and there, someone had carved things into the wood, shapes, names. One of them was mine. I stopped, not because I remembered writing it, but because I didn't. It was older, the letters warped and moss-grown. I ran my fingers across them, and a whisper moved through the hallway, like someone exhaling through the walls. The first door appeared, wooden, green paint peeling, a number carved into the top, 0. Inside was a room I didn't recognize, but it felt familiar. A child's bed, a worn teddy bear slumped in the corner, wallpaper with faded stars peeling at the edges, the kind of room someone once slept in every night, then never returned to. I stepped inside. The floor creaked softly under my weight, but the walls didn't echo it. Instead, I heard a small voice. He used to knock on the wall. It was a girl's voice, barely above a breath. I turned, but the room was empty. The teddy bear was missing. When I backed out of the room, the door closed behind me. I tried the knob again. It wouldn't turn, and the number had changed. There were more doors now, dozens, lining both sides of the hallway. Some cracked open, some breathing cold air from beneath. Each one pulsed slightly, as if they were listening. I opened another, a kitchen, mid-century, retro blue tiles. One flickering light above a wooden table where 2 cups sat, steaming. I picked one up. It was warm. I sat down because it felt like I was supposed to. Across from me, the chair creaked, as though someone else had just done the same. I couldn't see them, but I could feel their stare, like looking in a mirror, blindfolded. There were words scratched into the table between us. You left, so we sank. I stood and left the room, my breath catching in the damp hallway air. But this time, the hallway wasn't the same. It sloped downward, barely, but enough to feel the change in pressure. and I realized I had been going deeper, not metaphorically, physically, deeper than a house should go, deeper than the lake above. Then I saw the mirror, alone on the wall between two doors, tall, framed in iron vines, and in it I saw myself, older, wet, eyes that weren't quite mine, or were mine, but not from this life, and behind me, standing in the reflection, was the woman from the lake. Her mouth did not move, but I heard her speak. The house was never buried. You were. When I turned, she was gone. But the mirror stayed, and my reflection no longer matched me. It looked ready. There was no end to the hallway now, just doors, on every side, on the floor, on the ceiling. Each one pulsed gently, as if breathing. Each one had a sound behind it, a whisper, a scratch, a drop of water, or the soft, dragging shuffle of something that didn't want to be heard. I tried not to open them anymore. I tried not to look at the numbers on each door, but they called to me, not in voices, but in memories, memories that weren't mine. At the center of the house, if you could still call it that, was a great circular chamber. It smelled of mildew, rust, and something older than wet wood. The ceiling was high, domed, and leaking in slow, steady drips. Each drop fell perfectly into a still pool that covered the floor, shallow, cold, black as ink. And in that water, reflections moved that didn't belong to me. They showed places I'd never been, faces I didn't know, hands reaching from inside the lake, a fire in a bedroom, a swing creaking by itself in the dark, a girl crying with her face turned to the wall, and then me, but not now, not this version of me. I was underwater, mouth open, eyes wide, not afraid, just waiting. There were footsteps behind me, soft, bare, wet. I turned. She was there again, the woman on the water. Only now I could see her face. It was mine, not exactly, but close enough to hurt, like looking at a dream version of yourself, or the person you could have been if something had gone differently. She stepped forward. The water didn't ripple. When she reached me, she held out her hand. There was a key in her palm. This one was white, smooth and warm. "This one opens the truth," she said, though her mouth didn't move. I took it. It didn't feel like metal. It felt like bone. One final door remained. No markings, no number, just tall, black wood, smooth, silent, and impossibly cold. The white key fit the lock, and when I turned it, the house exhaled. Not wind, not breath, but time. Everything around me bent inward, walls groaning, floors shivering, the reflections in the water twisting into spirals of memory, and the door opened inward, to my childhood bedroom, except it was wrong. There were drawings on the walls I never made. The bed was too small. The light came from nowhere, and sitting on the floor, with her back to me, was the woman. Not older now, younger. She was humming something I recognized. A lullaby my mother used to hum when I was sick. A lullaby I'd forgotten. She looked over her shoulder, and this time she had no face, only water, still, smooth water, where a face should have been, and in it I saw everything I'd tried to forget. The fight, the accident, the silence after, the long drive into the woods, the lake, black and endless, the sinking. She stood. "You came back," she said. And this time, her voice came from inside my head, not like a thought, like a memory. "The house only shows what you buried, but some things grow even when buried. She stepped into the wall, melted into it, gone, and the room began to fill with water. I didn't run, I just stood there, watching as it climbed over my ankles, my knees, my chest, until I was floating, eyes open, breath held, and in the ceiling above, a new door appeared, wide open, with light behind it. I floated for what felt like hours. No movement, no sound, just the water and me, ... But it wasn't cold anymore, not even wet. It felt like being wrapped in something old, a feeling I once knew, before I had a name for it, before I had words for grief, or silence, or sleep. Maybe this was sleep, the real kind, the kind you don't wake from. The door above remained open. Its light pulsed softly, like it was breathing, but I wasn't floating upward. I wasn't rising toward it. I was drifting sideways. The water took me gently through the walls, past the rooms I had opened, past the ones I hadn't dared touch, each one now flooded but peaceful, like aquariums filled with memory. I saw the child's room again, the teddy bear floating face down. I saw the kitchen, the cups now empty, the chairs still warm, and deeper still, I saw a new room, one I had never entered. No door, just a mirror, standing tall in the middle of it. The same mirror from before, but this time, I wasn't in it. The reflection showed a different version of the house. Not flooded, not broken, just quiet, lit by sunlight. Fresh flowers on the table, curtains swaying in a breeze I couldn't feel. And in that reflection, someone was standing at the window. It was me, but not me. I was older, or maybe younger, hard to tell in the glow. I looked content, at peace, like someone who had already remembered everything and had nothing left to run from. The real me, the one watching from under the water, pressed a hand to the mirror. It rippled, and on the other side, the version of me turned, met my eyes through the glass, and smiled, not in welcome, in recognition. Then something changed. A sound soft and far away, like a bell underwater. It came again and again, calling, pulling. I turned. The light from the open door above had dimmed. Its glow now flickered like a dying candle, and the hallway behind me, the one I thought I'd left, was gone. In its place, a staircase led downward, into blackness too thick for water, a kind of forever that didn't echo. I had a choice. I could go back, try to reach the light, wake up, maybe, drive away, forget this house again. Or I could follow the stairs, down, not toward an end, but toward the center. I began to descend, step by step. The water didn't resist. It flowed with me, like a memory settling into its place. The staircase twisted, then straightened, then vanished into a room I couldn't see until I was inside it. A single space, round, still, and in the middle, a chair, wooden, carved with that same symbol, circle, square, line, waiting. I sat, and the moment I did, I remembered everything. Not in images, not in words, but in weight. The weight of leaving, of letting go, of sinking on purpose. Not because you want to die, but because you don't want to hold anything anymore. The accident, the silence that followed, the house I never finished building, because I didn't think I deserved to live in it. The way the lake whispered to me at night, even before I saw it, even before I came here, even before I was born. This wasn't a haunting, this was home. The woman reappeared, but she wasn't separate from me now. She was me, or the part of me I left here, to guard, to wait, to keep the house standing. She placed her hand on mine, and whispered, "Now you remember, so you can rest." The walls faded. The water rose over my eyes, and for the first time since I arrived, I closed them, not to sleep, not to forget, but to stay. If someone ever finds this house, if they walk into the lake and see the roof, just for a moment, they'll feel something pull at them. Not fear, not danger, just memory. Soft, slow, a dream you wake from too soon. Let them come, let them drift. The house beneath the lake remembers everyone who's ever needed it. And if you're quiet enough, you can still hear me humming on the other side of the mirror.